So do whatever you have to do to lift your laptop up to be level with your head. So I'm short. I'm only 4'5", but in the classroom yesterday, we were actually playing with laptops and creating heights. So the boys got a stool that's in my classroom and they put it on top of a desk. And they got one of those debate stands that the debaters put their laptops on. And then they put the laptop on top of the stool, on top of the stand. And then it was tall enough for James to have the camera at eye level. And that's the angle that is most flattering. When you're looking down into the camera, we're seeing this, and that's not pretty. When you're looking, when you're below the camera and you're looking up, the lighting is actually really good right there, but it's not, the angle of what you're seeing is not good. But if I was competing in a round, I could, and we have to play with the angle, and you have to do this exactly what we're doing. So I'm now backed away because you want to see like above the knees up, no, nothing below the knees. You don't need to see the whole body because then you lose the face features. So what I need to do is I need to bring this angle down and go back and test. I can bring it down more. There. Do you see that? Now you can see a good speaking. My head is at the top of the screen, maybe a smidge low there. And then if I want to, I can come a little bit forward. I can move to the side. I want to make sure I stay within the frame. And I can move to the side over here and I can stay in the frame. And Richie's going to talk about those angles.
Yep.
But you always want to practice and figure this out before you videotape and before you compete.
Absolutely. So the first part of that is that you want to get your camera up, right? Um, Typically, my camera is actually set a little low because my desk is really small and I can't get a tripod behind there. But I've moved it and I've set up a different tripod so that my camera is actually at eye level right now, which is great for me. And great for you. It looks more like I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the, like, I'm still not looking directly at the camera, but I'm not like looking down on you. You're not looking up my nostrils, right? Like those are problems for this. You're also not really looking at my ceiling. Um, Here's the thing with cameras, you may have more than one camera that you can use, right? I see some people are on webcams on their computers, some people are probably on phones. That's cool. You may find that the camera in your computer is better or less good than the one in your phone. Oftentimes, especially the newer generation, newer models of phone cameras are super nice. Like the new iPhone, the, I guess there's a new iPhone as of today, but like the
12.
iPhone 11 cameras are beautiful. They're really, really lovely cameras. The camera in your computer, not so much. But one thing that they generally have in common is that they're really wide angle cameras. We'll talk about that in just a second because it has to do with Meg and what Meg was just saying and the positioning of yourself in your frame. Um, but the first thing I want to say is check to see which camera is best. If your laptop camera is better, like in the same general settings, the same general lighting, check to see which camera gives you a nicer picture, right? Record on both and check to see which gives you a nicer picture. Then use that one. If it's a built-in webcam, the best way to, like in a laptop or something, the best way to elevate it is to physically elevate the computer. I recommend using something like one of those adjustable table totes that debaters use. Those are great. That's a really nice stable platform. If you don't have that, a big stack of books will do just fine, right? Like a table, a big stack of books, a stool, whatever. Just get that camera up to about your eye level. And remember where your camera is in your computer. For some, it's right, for most, it's right at the top of the bezel above your monitor. For some, like there were some web cameras made for a little while that were in the bottom of the bezel down by where the hinge is, which is
Stupid.
stupid. I can't believe they did that because then everybody was looking up your nose.
Yeah.
Um, but figure out which one is best for you and raise it up. If you've got a phone and your phone is really good, first off, when you do recordings and when you do, unless you're doing like Meg's TikTok event that's going to be at her tournament, when you do recordings, I'm so excited about that event. It's going to be so much fun. When you do recordings for competition and when you do competition in general, your phone should not ever be vertical. It should always be horizontal, right? It shouldn't ever, you should never be holding it like this. You should always be holding it like this. Does that make sense? Everybody clear on that? Should always be that way for this. The other thing is you need to raise it up too. I recommend you get something like this. This is a Manfrotto Pixie mini tripod. It's got a nice little ball head on it, and it comes with an adapter for a phone that'll grip a phone horizontally. Right? I don't have that because I don't use a phone, but this is good for that. This is a little tripod that also incidentally folds up into a really nicely grippable stick. So if you want to vlog with it, you can hold it out and vlog with it. Right? This is a great little tripod. I use this literally all the time. It's cheap. It's really stable and sturdy. Um, it's super good and it's not expensive. I think the kit with this little tripod and the grip head for your phone is something like 30 bucks total, right? And then you've got a nice stable platform with which to set your phone on something tall so that you can get it up at eye level, right? Which is going to help you get better recordings. The other thing is, like I said earlier, all of these camera angles are wide angle lenses. That means that, like, from the lens, the angle that they cover in the room is going to be wide, but it's always going to be this sort of trapezoid, right? It's always going to be coming out at an angle. So the angle is fairly wide, and you need to figure out what the angle of your lens is, right? Because it's going to come out. Imagine that your lens, the lens of your webcam, is at the center of this, or is it the vertex, the point of this triangle. You're going to draw basically a line from the edges of that lens back along the visible path. And you can't see my hands because I'm tracing literally the edge. If I bring them in just slightly, you'll see where I'm at, right? My hands are, this is really hard to do in, there we go.
There.
So my hands are wide. I have to bring them very, very close together as I trace the edge of this lens.
So if
They're
you're in
really
the
close together.
room, if you're in the room like this, I'm now about, I don't know, 5 feet away from my camera in my computer. I can walk 1, 2 steps to my right, going back to center. I can go 1, 2 steps to my left. Okay. But that's back here. But if I go all the way up to where, let me bring my lens down a little bit. If I go all the way up to where maximum, as forward as I can get without losing the top of my head, I literally can go about a half a step this way and I can go about a half a step this way. So it's a half step up here and it's 2 full steps to the side back here. So
And if
you
she
have,
got even further back, if she was able to get further back, it'd be 4 or 5 steps to either side,
right.
right?
Janine, did
Like
you
the
have a
further
question?
back you
How far
go,
back are you? Are you like 3 feet or
No, I was
6 feet?
about, I have a filing cabinet right here, so I can't go any further back. But right now, I'm probably 5 feet, 4 to 5 feet away from my computer.
that looks
But
about right.
this is a good. If I lowered my it, here's the image that you want to be projecting in your during your competition rounds. You want to see from about the bottom of your suit jacket or just about your wrists up to the top of your head, and that should fill the frame. We don't need to see your feet. We don't need to see your knees. But if you wanted to, like depending on what you were doing, and we'll talk about creativity in a little while, but we'll address those kinds of things under creativity. But that's really what we need to see about the bottom of your suit jacket, wrist level up.
So here's the thing. This not only works from side to side, but it also works up and down. So the closer you come, the more likely your head is to get chopped off. And as you go back, the smaller it gets. So there are two things that you want to make sure that you do. One, you want to make sure that you don't go too far back and get totally lost in the frame.
And that we don't see that we can't see your facial features. Because
Yeah.
remember, your facial features and your expression in your eyes are very important to what you're saying, whether you're competing in oratory or informative or even humorous interp. That's like our faces are expressive.
So over my shoulder back here, you can see my bookshelf. That bookshelf's about 7 feet tall, right? And you can just see the line that runs along here. That's the edge of the wall of my apartment, and that's about 9 feet tall. Um, and like obviously, my head is not as big as those things, right? So, but my head is filling the frame because of how close I am to my camera. So imagine all of this works like a cone of what you can see. You need to figure out where that cone is. You need to figure out how to come closer to the camera so your head doesn't get cut off. You need to figure out how to like line out the line of sight so you can figure out where the edges of your frame are. Like this
There.
angle right here. Here are the edges of my frame. When I come back by my head, it's much wider. My hands move outward, right? So you need to figure that out beforehand. I recommend putting tape on the floor and giving yourself some levels and figuring out like how far forward you can come so your head doesn't get cut off, how far backward you can go so you don't get lost in the frame, and where the edges of your space are. And so you'll make basically a trapezoid of tape on the floor, right? So that you can see as you perform where your limits are, where you can't go. I think that's really important.